My next guest is one of 4 million federal workers whose life has been upended by this government shutdown. Cochems is a lead TSA officer at Boise Airport and among the 58,000 TSA employees currently working without pay. That means at airports all around the country, TSA officers are expected to report to duty each day and be responsible for the safety of millions of Americans, all while worrying about the next time they will actually see a paycheck. He's also the vice president of his union, Local 1127, and is concerned about more than just himself, but the thousands of TSA workers he represents across multiple states. Cameron Cochems joins me now from Idaho. Cameron, it's good to see you. And I'll just ask you point blank, why are you still showing up for work? You're not getting paid.
Yeah, so when we signed up for this job, we didn't just sign a piece of paper. We also swore an oath to the country, so a lot of us, this job means more than just a paycheck, but also means more. That's why we take these oaths to do these jobs.
It's an admirable thing to say. And, our reporters have been talking to a number of your TSA officers kind of on the down low. They're not coming on camera, but they are telling our reporters that they might start calling in sick because they're not getting paid. Do you think that's going to happen? And what do you say to those TSA agents that are thinking that way?
I can't speak for my fellow TSA officers around the country, just for the people in my airport and my local. And, so far, we've been putting out education to give people so that morale can stay as high as we can for the time being. We've talked about how federal credit unions have low interest or zero interest loans for shutdowns. And so people who have those banks can take advantage of that. We've been talking about food banks or things like that where people can go to. It's tough when people have single parents who have to take care of their families or things like that, and the TSA is their only job, and everything like that. So it's tough. We got to see what we can do.
And that's what I wanted to ask you, because I didn't know your situation. I was curious, how long, can you afford to work without a paycheck until you get your back pay? You just mentioned coworkers that are living paycheck to paycheck. What about you?
Yeah, I would say I'm like most millennials, where I have student loans, I have high rent. I think rent in this country is at all-time highs, so I don't have as much safety net as I can, but luckily I have a good safety network in my family. I have a lot of family in town who can help me with things that I can say that I am grateful for, but there's other people that definitely don't have that. I know some of my coworkers who, just got out of, relationships and got divorces and moved across the country, and they have no family or friends or anything. And people like that are alone, and it's worrisome for those people.
And now let's talk about passengers, those flying through all the various airports. What do you think about wait times? What is it going to be like for travelers?
I think as long as travelers, are prepared, for anything, I think the TSA website, the wait times online are not being tracked anymore. So I would say just make sure to get there 2 hours earlier. And I just got to say too, so many people think that TSA officers, just deal with bad passengers and all this stuff all the time. But in my experience with passengers, a lot of them say, thank you for what we do. They try to give us sweets, which we're not allowed to take. But I just appreciate everyone who flies through airports because that's the reason why we have a job. So thanks.
Cameron Cochems, really appreciate you joining me today. Let's stay in touch.
Have a good one.